KWT slaying.
Salama family, salama. How y'all doing? Hope you're blessed and highly favored. I wanted to thank all of you all who supported Sister Emily. You know, she's out there in Turkey by herself after dealing with that cult. And you know, them cults gonna say any and everything, but she's a sweet person. So I want to thank y'all for helping her out. And that's how family do, right? So, what I'm gonna talk about today, you know, as I always say, eat the meat, spit out the bones, right? You don't have to accept it, but you know, remember, I told you all I look at this thing as someone who is doing an investigation, right? Sort of like Columbo, you know, Matlock, you know, y'all used to watch that stuff. You have to look at the information, put the pieces together. Now, you know, like I say, eat the meat, spit out the bones. But I think I pretty much got this thing figured out. Uh, you know, how they hide and misrepresent things. But if you believe the Bible should be your foundation. And I'm not going to get into the details of a lot of stuff. Like, you know, I'm going to talk about Egypt and its borders. And I'm going to talk about some other things because it all starts to come together, right? It all starts, all of the teachings, all of the research, everything starts to come together. Because you know how I told y'all, I'm convinced 100% that Jerusalem is in what we call Ethiopia. Now, I don't get into the specifics of like Eritrea and things like that, you know, Tigray, you know, I don't get into the specifics of that, but the area of what we call Ethiopia. And so what I'm going to talk about today sort of adds to that, right? And it allows you to see things differently. Um, because, well, let me get into it and I'll comment a little more as we go. Okay, Egypt's imaginary borders. We must start using common sense. When I say common sense, what do I mean by that? We have to ask the right questions. We have to, you know, say, okay, well, if so and so is the son of Ham, and so were brothers, and they were family, then, you know, what's all of this division that the Gentiles put into history, right? And I'm gonna get to that, you know, that's sort of high level. But we must start using common sense and apply the things we have learned from the past studies. Understand that racism has a lot to do with the deceptive information we receive from the world, especially after the transatlantic slave trade. So, racism has a lot to do with the history you know. Okay, because most of these white archaeologists and historians, y'all know as much as I know. They're gonna tell you that Egypt was white, right? Or at the very least, they're gonna say Egypt wasn't black, or Egypt wasn't Negroes, right? They're gonna tell you that, right? But you could go look at the pictures and all that stuff. And there's a video. I'm not gonna show it because, be honest with you, I run into too many issues with YouTube and their censorship. So I'm not going to show the video, but some of y'all probably saw the video already where, the white archaeologists were surprised to find out that the Egyptian king, right? The mummy that they had was a Negro, right? Y'all saw that video. And if I don't forget, I'll put that link of the video in the chat. But they had to white out Egypt, right? Because, Greece came in there, took over Egypt, right? Ptolemy and them, right? And then you also had the Ottomans who came in there, and you got the present, what we call whitish looking people who call themselves Egyptians today. Okay. But some of the stuff they tell you don't make no sense because they used to say we were Hamites, right? But then, Mizraim was a descendant of Ham. So, obviously racism plays a role in history. And we're going to talk about some of that stuff because it really don't make sense once you start looking at some of this stuff. So we've heard a lot about Egypt and very little about Nubia. This is where I come and I'm talking about the imaginary borders, right? The imaginary borders. It's ridiculous when you think about it. So we've heard a lot about Egypt and very little about Nubia. They have tried to make Egypt white, but that has failed. Anyone who has done a modicum of research knows that Egypt was Negro. I'm not going to try to prove that here. I mean, you could do that easily. With the internet, if you still think Egypt was white, I'm sorry for you, right? So what I want to discuss is the obvious lies dealing with the imaginary borders of Egypt. One part is Lower Egypt, the part that most people know of. The other part is Upper Egypt. Most know very little of this territory, and the final part is called Nubia. See, the case I'm gonna make is that Nubia was part of Egypt. And if you use common sense, it makes sense that Nubia was a part of Egypt, right? Come on now. All right. So they got to separate, they got to create this imaginary border between Egypt and Nubia. So this is a psychological operation to make people believe that Egypt and Nubia were different kingdoms. This cannot be the case, even if you look into the information they already have. So I will make my case that Egypt included Nubia. I mean, it's just logical sense. I mean, I have a brother. We have the same dad. I go and create a kingdom. My name is Mizraim. My brother's name is Kush. And he happens to create another kingdom right down the road from me. But we're not the same kingdom. But we brothers. So this is modern Egypt right here. That little piece that you see in orange. Modern Egypt. More than likely the territory that the Ptolemies took over. Or the Ottomans. Because right now, the descendants who occupy Egypt right now are descendants of both the Greeks and the Ottomans. But was this little area right here ancient Egypt? You know how they give you that little strip of land over in the Middle East and tell you it's Israel? They give you this little box over here and call it Egypt, but Egypt was a great kingdom, mind you. When you start thinking about these things, you know they lying or telling half-truths. So now that's liars, right? That's how some of these people do today, tell you half-truths. I got people telling half-truths on me, but I'm not going to get into that. So Nubia, look, you have Lower Egypt. That's the part that everybody really know about. Then you have Upper Egypt, right? And then you have the Nubia or Kush. Nubia is Kush. Now, let's think about this for a second now. Think about this. Nubia is where the black folks at now. And guess what? Black folks still live there today. But you don't have black folks living in the lower part of Egypt. Why? Because it was taken over by Greeks and it was taken over by Ottomans. So we can't say, the historians and the archaeologists, even though some of them are admitting it now, too much information out. But the earlier historians and the earlier archaeologists said Egypt was white. But his brother down below, Kush, is black. Come on now. His brother down below in Nubia is black, but in Lower Egypt, that was white. They got to stop it. Ain't nobody buying their stuff no more. So Nubia, Nobin, Romanized, Nuba, is a region along the Nile River, encompassing the area between the first cataract of the Nile, just south of Aswan in southern Egypt, and the confluence of the Blue and White Niles in Khartoum in central Sudan. So this goes all the way down to Nubia, which goes all the way down to Sudan, which is black. See, they couldn't hide that. They couldn't push the black folks out of Sudan. So they had to split it up. Well, that's Nubia down there, and that's Egypt up here. Egypt was where the white folks at. But down below, where Kush is, that's black. Nubia is black. But they brothers. Somebody make it make sense. So, or more strictly, El Dabah, it was the seat of one of the earliest civilizations of ancient Africa, the Kerma culture, which lasted from around 2500 BC until its conquest by the New Kingdom of Egypt under Pharaoh Thutmose I, around 1500 BC, whose heirs ruled most of Nubia for the next 400 years. Nubia was home to several empires, most prominently the Kingdom of Kush, which conquered Egypt in the 8th century BC during the reign of Pi and ruled the country as its 25th dynasty, to be replaced essentially later by the native Egyptian 26th dynasty. Now, understand this. You had the Nubians living there. The Nubians happened to be Kush. Kush happened to be the brother of Mizraim. Now, according to their logic, right, and I'm not saying it didn't happen, maybe brothers fought. But according to their logic, Nubia fought Egypt and took over Egypt at one time, which was, Nubia was black, and took over the territory of Egypt. And then Egypt ended up taking over Nubia again, right? But they weren't black. But Nubia was black. But Egypt was white. But they brothers. I contend that Lower Egypt, Upper Egypt, and Kush, can I say upper Egypt? I contend Lower Egypt, Upper Egypt, and upper Egypt, called Nubia. Now, I also contend that some of the territory within what we call Ethiopia was a part of the Egyptian Empire. So Kush, who was Kush? Kush is the son of Ham and grandson of Noah, and the sons of Ham. The sons of Ham is who? Who's the sons of Ham? Kush, Mizraim, Phut, and Canaan. But we're supposed to believe these were two separate empires. Now, maybe at one time they ended up becoming that. But I guarantee you, during the time of our ancestors, when they were slaves in Egypt, that was one kingdom. Family relationships still stay the same, just like the 12 tribes. Family was important back then. You didn't survive unless you united as a family. Come on, let's make it make sense now. So Mizraim and Kush. Kush, Hebrew pronunciation, Kush is, hint, hint, guys. Kush Guys, what do they speak in Ethiopia? Amharic. Now they say some of the Amharic people are Kushites. Yes, I believe some of them are. And some are Israelites. Now, here's the thing we got to keep in mind. Some of those citizens of Egypt were different groups of people. Now, they were family. Some were Canaanites. Some were, and I don't know if this is the word for it, but Foottites. Some were Mizraim. Some were Kush, which made up Egypt. This is my case. This one I'm making. Eat the meat, spit out the bones. You ain't got to agree. So according to the Hebrew Bible, was the oldest son of Ham and grandson of Noah. He was the brother of Mizraim. So Cush was Mizraim's brother. So that's like me, Yacoba, building a kingdom along the Nile by the Red Sea. And my brother, Minister tell you, building another kingdom down the road along the Nile by the Red Sea. But we two different kingdoms. You buying that? I'm gonna build a kingdom in Lower Egypt. My brother gonna build a kingdom in Upper Egypt. But we ain't the same. We ain't ruling together. Come on now. See, this is what they want us to believe. So Cush is traditionally considered the ancestor of the land of Cush, an ancient territory believed to have been located near the Red Sea. Cush is identified in the Bible with the kingdom of Kush or ancient Sudan. The Cushitic languages are named after Cush. So they want us to believe that Sudan is part of the same territory in the same land area as Mizraim, but they, and according to the Bible and according to historians, are brothers, but weren't ruling together. It wasn't the same kingdom. I contend it was this same kingdom that they call Egypt, that they call Egypt, that they call Mizraim. And why do I say that? Because it only makes sense. But let's, like I say, some people don't have common sense, so it ain't gonna make sense. I'm telling you, some people don't have common sense, so it ain't gonna make sense. Not to them. So Egypt is Mizraim. Who was Mizraim? Mizraim, modern Mizraim, is the Hebrew and Aramaic name for the land of Egypt with the dual suffix ayim, perhaps referring to two Egypts, Upper Egypt, Lower Egypt, and can we say Upper Egypt, which is Nubia? Mizraim is the dual form of Matzor, meaning a mound or fortress, the name of a people descended from Ham, but Cush is descended from Ham. It was the name generally given by the Hebrews to the land of Egypt and its people. Now, I'm gonna tell you this. You ain't got to agree with it, but I'm gonna make my case, and you still ain't got to agree with it. I'm gonna make the case that the reason Yeshua went to Egypt is because Egypt was next door and not in that little small piece of land called the Middle East. You know where I think Yeshua was? In Jerusalem, which is in what we call modern Ethiopia, which in the Tigray area and the Eritrea area. Oh, there was some stuff I was gonna cover. I'm gonna tell you about it, but I ain't gonna put it in this show. Now, can y'all hear me? If you can hear me, give me one, please. Because I have some conspiracy theories as well. And I didn't want to put the conspiracy theories in here because some people put the conspiracy theories in there, and it makes for a good show. But I'm gonna throw it in there just so you can think about it, right? Now, have you all y'all saw Black Panther, right? Y'all know the story of Black Panther. Y'all know the story of Wakanda. And I fought putting it in here, but I felt, well, if I put that in here, that sort of detracts from what I'm trying to do because it's theoretical. But y'all remember how we watch the movies and they hint that we the people, they're the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Y'all saw those movies, right? The Jews were black. Y'all remember the movies, right? Good Times. Mama, how do we know Jesus wasn't black? See, they do that in movies, right? TV shows, right? Laughing in our face, right? So anyway, in Black Panther, guess where Wakanda is? You ain't gotta just make it up. Just go look, Google it. If you go to the wiki and go to the Black Panther wiki or the Marvel wiki, they're gonna show you a picture where Wakanda is, according to Marvel. Guess where Wakanda is? Yes, East Africa. Not only East Africa, in the same territory of Ethiopia. You think they're not telling you where Jerusalem is? Guess what else they got on the map of the Marvel map of where Wakanda is? There's a territory called Canaan. You think they're playing with you? I'm gonna tell you, these people get on my last nerve because they think we stupid. They think we could tell them everything in movies and everything in comic books. They still ain't gonna get it. That's their land. That's their territory. That's where Jerusalem is. What's the odds of them picking the same area in the highlands of Ethiopia to place Wakanda? What's the odds? Why does the falls in the Black Panther movie look like Lake Victoria? They know. But I digress. I just want to throw that out there because I'm going to tell you, and I'll probably go deeper into some of the things I'm going to talk about today. But there's a key to understanding the hidden location of the Israelites and the hidden location of Judah and the hidden location of Jerusalem. There's a key to their maps. But like I said, there was a reason that Yeshua went to Egypt, because it was nearby. There's a reason that all of the patriarchs went to Egypt for their food, because it was nearby. Did the sound go out again? Somebody say the sound went out. If I'm fine, give me a 1, please. But there's a reason why Jacob went to Egypt. There's a reason why the 12 went to Egypt, because it was nearby, and it wasn't the Middle East. So the family, as we saw, Kush was the son of Ham. They want us to believe that these families started to fight one another, though they may be possible down the road into the future. So in the future, maybe they forgot who they were and fought, but not during the time of the captivity of our people, right? So I seriously doubt they were at each other's throats and trying to overthrow, that's misspelled, overthrow their brothers, sisters, and cousins. This is what they want us to believe. I believe that Egypt was ruled by descendants of Ham, aka Mizraim and Kush. I believe that was the kingdom of Egypt, Mizraim and Kush. Can we say Hamites, descendants of Ham? That's who ruled. They want us to believe in an imaginary border among the families along the Nile and along the Red Sea. And that although Nubia is considered Kush, which was the brother of Mizraim, they weren't ruling together. Foolishness. So though they have almost identical customs and traditions, that's the other thing, right? Egypt and Nubia have identical traditions, identical dress. I'm getting ahead of myself. I don't know what the idea of Hamites enslaving us have to do with anything, because right now I'm not talking about that. I'm trying to get you to understand where the biblical narrative happened and how the Gentiles throw in little, terms to separate the idea of where the Negroes lived or where Egypt was, because they couldn't kick you out of the Sudan. They kicked you out of Lower Egypt. I'm not talking about Israel. I'm talking about the Negro-looking Hamites. They kicked them out of Lower Egypt. They went into the other parts of East Africa, parts of Ethiopia, which was part of their territory. They couldn't kick them out of Upper Egypt or Upper Egypt, like I said, Nubia. I call Nubia Upper Egypt because it's part of Egypt, in my opinion. They couldn't get rid of them, so they had to separate them in terminology. But at the same time, the Bible tells us that Mizraim and Kush were brothers. History tells us that Mizraim and Kush were brothers. But we're supposed to believe that it was a separate kingdom. Maybe at some time in the future they became that. But I don't believe that's how it started. So the imaginary borders, Lower Egypt, Upper Egypt, and Nubia, Kush. But this is the same family all along the Red Sea and along the Nile. My contention is that this was Egypt all the way to Nubia. So the imaginary border, the lie. Archaeologists and historians have divided this territory as lower and upper and Nubian territory. A territory ruled by a family of Hamites. Look at the map on the right. Who created this imaginary border and why? Because they want you to believe that the Lower Egypt was white. Greeks. Not only were they family, they were living in the same area along the Nile. There is no logical reason to assume that the Egyptians did not rule so-called Kush territory as well. They state that Kush was later invaded because Egypt ended up ruling, but they were one family. It's sort of like when you deal with some of these other people, and I'm not going to mention no name to get into it, but it's like, do you really expect me to believe that? You want me to believe that Kush, which is black, and you admit it's black, you call it Nubia, but you want me to believe that upper and lower were white, or some off-colored white, or Middle Eastern looking, or Ottoman looking. You want me to believe that, but yet Kush, which is his brother, is blackety black. Well, Tail Ministry is always talking about color. It ain't about color. We're all human beings. Yeah, but y'all lie on us. Y'all didn't invent nothing, right? And I'm not calling us Hamites. I'm saying that if the Nubians are descendants of Ham and Mizraim is descendants of Ham, they're brothers, the logical conclusion is that all of this was Egypt. And I ain't finished. So Nubian and early Egyptian artifacts appear to have many similarities. Okay. We saw on the map, we saw where Nubia is. We saw on the map, we see where Egypt is. It's logical to conclude that they would have what? Similarities, right? So the Nubian and early Egyptian artifacts appear to have many similarities. Why? Because they're the same people. This indicates that the two societies may have shared many traits, like ideas about rulers. Why? Because they had the same type of rulers, because they are the same people, I'm telling you. So this indicates that the two societies may have shared many traits, like ideas about rulers, written symbols, so their writing is the same. And artistic features, their art is the same. There's also evidence of established trade networks between Nubia and Egypt. Why? Because they're family. Mizraim is his brother. So even later on, Mizraim and Kush are cousins. but they're not the same kingdom. Come on now, please. There's also evidence of established trade networks between Nubia and Egypt. Nubia was located in an area that participated in the flow of goods like ivory from Inner Africa to the Mediterranean region. Similar customs, similar writings, similar society, but they're not the same. They're two separate. I'm sorry, mama ain't raised no food. I'm sorry. I'm not that easily manipulated like that. You know, when you say these aren't the drawers you're looking for, that don't work on me. Sudan is Kush. Sudan is Kush as well as some other places. So when I say as well as some other places, some of the areas surrounding what we currently call Ethiopia have Kushites in it. Part of those territories were a part of Egypt. Sudan was a part of Egypt. Kush and Mizraim were brothers. The kingdom of Kush, Assyrian, Rassam, Cylinder, Kusi, you know, they call us Kushis, right? Was an ancient kingdom in Nubia, centered along the Nile Valley in what is now northern Sudan and southern Egypt. Are ye not like the Kushi? Some translations say it's Ethiopians. Are you not Israel like the Ethiopians to me? Aren't you black Israel? Aren't you Kushi Israel? Are you not like the Sudanese Israel? Meroe kingdom. Meroe, also spelled Meroe, Merotic. Meroe, Meruai, was an ancient city on the east bank of the Nile, about 6 kilometers northeast of the Kabushia station near Shindi, Sudan. Pyramids. Can y'all see those pyramids? Approximately 200 kilometers northeast of Khartoum, near the site, is a group of villages called Bagrawa, Arabic. This city was the capital of the kingdom of Kush. I contend this was all Egypt. This is why we already saw they had similar customs, similar artifacts, similar symbols. They also have pyramids. I contend this all was part of Egypt. Instead of calling this a Kushite kingdom, instead of calling Lower Egypt a Mizraim kingdom, we could call it a Hamitic kingdom. See, they don't want to do that. They don't want to call it a Hamitic kingdom because they used to call us Ham. So if they had called it a Hamitic kingdom, they would have been like, okay, well, what's up with that? I thought y'all said that the black folks were Ham and the rulers and the pharaohs of ancient Egypt were white. See, they can't keep their lies straight. So this city was the capital of the kingdom of Kush for several centuries, from around 590 BC until it collapsed in the 6th century AD. The Kushitic kingdom of Meroe gave its name to the island of Meroe, which was the modern region of Butana, a region bounded by the Nile from the Atabara River to Khartoum, the Atabara and the Blue Nile. So let's assume I'm correct. Let's assume I'm correct that Meroe. Now, I want to say this as well. In Sudan or in Meroe, it used to be called Sabah. It used to be called Sabah. And also, Sabah is where they get the word Sheba from, like Queen of Sheba. Now, some people believe that, because there's another territory in Yemen called Sabah. Some people believe that the Queen of Sheba came from Yemen. Maybe she did. But she may have as well come from Sudan. And so when we look at this, we see similarities, just as we saw. They say there were similarities in artifacts, similarities in language, similarities in everything, their rulership. Now, Sister Emily says she having difficulty hearing me. Can y'all hear me? Can y'all hear me? If you can, say yes. Okay, they say they could hear me, Sister Emily. So understand that Meroe kingdom was, according to them, a Cushitic kingdom. And the Cushites is related to Mizraim, but we're supposed to believe that they weren't one kingdom. Similar cultures, similar rulership, all of that. That's what I read it, right? You saw it. Egyptian pyramid. As we read, the kingdom of Nubia, a Cushitic kingdom, had many similarities to Egypt. Not only that, they both had pyramids within the kingdoms. We all know that the European powers have always tried to separate the Africans from Egypt. They try to promote a white Egypt from the time that the Ptolemies took it over in 323 BC. That's why they shot the nose off. That's why Napoleon shot the nose off the Sphinx, because it's a Negroid nose. But understand that Israel lived amongst the Hamites. I don't want to say Egyptians, because in my opinion, the Egyptians were inclusive of Mizraim and Kush. It was a Hamitic empire. It just makes sense. So Meroe along the Nile and Red Sea, Meroe would destroy the idea that Egypt was white, because Sudan, where Meroe is located, is still occupied by Negro people. Not Israelite people, but a Negro people. Not necessarily Israelites. Many or mainly Cushites. Yet they conveniently ignore that Cush and Mizraim were family. If family, they were all black. We see this in the images of the pyramids today. So it's sort of like the argument we have today about Israelites. You got Israelites telling you that Israelites are white, Israelites are black, Israelites is this, Israelites are that. I'm not saying we don't have many colors, but as a rule, 99% of the Israelites are Negroid. They act like phenotype don't matter, but it does. And that's why they had to take Jerusalem, or Israel, what they call it, and put it in the Middle East. Put it as far away from Black Africa as they could, because if it was where I believe it is, in Ethiopia, everybody knows that Israel's black. If the Egyptians are black, then Israel's black. If Benjamin was in Egypt and they couldn't recognize him, then he looked like them. If Moses was in there and looked like them, he had to look like them, right? If he looked like an Egyptian, he ruled as a ruler in Egypt, he had to look like the Egyptian. The Israelites look like the Egyptians. See, there's a lot of lies going on, because guess what? If I move Jerusalem out of Africa, now some people are going to say, well, Yacoba, modern Israel is a part of Africa. It's on the African tectonic plate. Alua Africani, yeah. But the further away it gets from black folks, the less the Gentiles and you yourself would know that the Negroes, the one who went into captivity, are the true Hebrew Israelites. But I'm going to show you how to understand those maps. We're starting to decipher those maps. Because understand, when they went in there and they said, I am going to take the Judah captive, they wrote on the maps, Kingdom of Judah. When they went in there and said, I'm going to take the Negroes captive, the Negro Israelites, that is, they went over there. Well, you know, they got some over here in the Sudan. They put where we were on the map so that when they went in, they knew who we were, where we were, and how many of us were there so that they could take us. Afar. The Afar people are Egyptian people. This is my opinion. Eat the meat, spit out the bones. Afar Amharic. Now, they say Afar Cushitic. Now, this goes to add to my point that the Cushitic people were a part of the Egyptian kingdom. So Afar Amharic, Adal Arabic, Danakil, non-pejorative, a people of the Horn of Africa who speak Afar, also known as Afar, Af, a language of the Eastern Cushitic branch of the Afro-Asiatic language family. They live in northeastern Ethiopia, southeastern Eritrea, and Djibouti, where was the Isis. They are the dominant people. Now, look at these pictures here of some of the ancient Egyptian. This woman over here with the Hathor hat on her head. And look at their hair. And look at this guy over here on the far right. He's in the far. Look at this image of an Egyptian. Do they not look like these images of the Egyptians? See, this adds to my case that Egypt was Lower Egypt, Upper Egypt, and Nubia. And they admit that that part of Upper Egypt, and they admit that Nubia were black. Oh, I'm about to talk about Somalia. I'm going to throw a little wrench in this thing. I'm about to throw a wrench in this thing. But look at that far guy. Looks like the picture over here of ancient Egyptians. But they want us to believe they were white. But understand, you got different Hamites. You got Foot, Canaan, Mizraim. That was Egypt. It was a Hamitic kingdom. But they like to separate things so they can confuse you. So you can believe that, oh, the lower Egypt was all white. They don't want to tell you about the Ptolemy invasion and taking it over and kicking out the black folks and putting them behind the scenes. There's still some black folks, some black Egyptians in modern Egypt, but they don't show those people. But these are Hamites. So more afar, styles and traditions can persevere. I spelled that wrong. Persevere over time if left alone. So if left alone, the styles and traditions continue. So this is the Egyptian statue. This is another guy who's in Afar. Let me repeat that. This is an Egyptian statue. This is another guy who's in Afar. He's a Kushite. Is it a coincidence that this Afar guy looks like this Egyptian? Huh, fam? That's a question for y'all. Is it a coincidence that this Afar guy looks like this statue from Egypt? and the hair is identical to the statue. But they want us to believe that Nubia was different. Egypt is inclusive of Nubia, inclusive of Djibouti, inclusive of parts of what we call Ethiopia, inclusive of Sudan. So when Yeshua went to Egypt, you don't know what part of Egypt he went to. Did he go to the Sudan? Did he go to Nubia, what they call Nubia? All of this is ancient Egyptian territory, lower, upper, and Kush, and parts of Ethiopia. So logic would assume that all of this was Egyptian territory. Hard to imagine the imaginary borders between Egypt and Kush, or the territory of Sudan. So we're supposed to say, okay, this is Lower Egypt. This is Upper Egypt. Okay, Egypt stop right here because they black. That's Kush. That's Nubia. They've been busted. See, we have the internet now. We can get all the information. We could get the maps. We could get the historical documents. We read our Bible and ask the right questions. Some people don't want to ask the right questions. Some people like to be deceived. Some people like to go with the traditional story from white supremacists, even if it don't make sense. So Egypt and Ethiopia, parts of Ethiopia was in the territory of what we call Egypt. This may answer why there was a synagogue on Elephantine Island. I am also convinced that those territories controlled by Egypt were at one time Israelite territory. So some of the territory that's controlled by modern Egypt, I believe, was Israelite territory, which is why in Elephantine Island there was a synagogue and all these things, because there was a relationship. Remember, we were slaves. Remember, we lived in Egypt. Remember, because I believe that modern Ethiopia is where the true Jerusalem is located, we can see why Yeshua and other Israelites would run to Egypt, next door neighbors. So remember, Goshen was our territory. We lived there for about 215 years. The black pharaohs. See, now you got black pharaohs, but there was no other pharaoh other than black. See, because they wanted us to believe, and they wanted the world to believe, that Lower Egypt, which is modern day Egypt, was a white controlled territory. So on the one hand, mainstream Egyptology does not like to enter into discussions about the racialized identity of the ancient people. And yet, certain representations are seen to be acceptable, as African Dynasty 25 is a case in point. As rulers of Kush and Kemet, these kings are often referred to as black pharaohs by the popular press and academics alike. I personally believe some of the pharaohs may have decided to have their kingdom in Lower Egypt. Some of the pharaohs decided to have their kingdom in Upper Egypt. Some of the pharaohs decided to have their kingdom in what they call Nubia, which is why now they deciding to separate it as being black pharaohs. Why? Because Nubia had pharaohs. Remember I told you? Similar customs, similar traditions, similar symbols, similar architecture. Both have pyramids. They had to separate. They had to separate Nubia from Egypt, because once you say Nubia was a part of Egypt, that means Egypt was black. If Egypt was black, then the Negro is black. And if the Negro is black, then Israelites are black. So this is the video. If I don't forget, I'll paste it in the chat. This is where the archaeologist, the white guy, says, yeah, I don't like it, but look like them Egyptians were black folks. Let me pause it right quick so I can put it in there, because I'm gonna forget if I don't do that right now. Hold on one sec. Some of y'all saw this already. Let me put it in there. Click that link and let me know if it worked. Let me pin that to the top. Let's see it. Make sure that link worked. Yeah. Now watch that video. The guy admits the Egyptians were black. He was shocked. But see, we say the Israelites black. That's a problem. So Egypt and Israel. Egypt and Israel. What am I talking about here? We about to go somewhere right here. What is Somalia? Who was Somalia named after? Now, remember, Egypt was Upper Egypt, Lower Egypt, and Nubia, parts of Ethiopia, and that Cushitic territory. Now, according to some of the people, right, Somalia is Cushitic as well, but it wasn't. No. I'm gonna tell you right now. Like I say, eat the meat, spit out the bones. You ain't gotta eat. And I don't need 100 different videos about why Yacoba's wrong, why Tail Ministry's wrong. Eat the meat, spit out the bones. You don't like it, do your own thing. But here's the thing, in my opinion. See, Somalia was part of the land that we call Israel. Ethiopia, modern Ethiopia, was part of the land we called Israel. Kenya was part of the land we call Israel. Part of Yemen was part of the land we call Israel. Part of Sudan was part of the land we call Israel. The highlands of Ethiopia is where Jerusalem was. But what does Somalia have to do with this? Oh, it's interesting. It's interesting. I told you, once you figure out how they hide stuff, you can figure out those maps. So Somalia, the land of Samuel. What? Yeah, Somalia, the land of Samuel, the prophet. Where you going, Yacoba? The land of Israel near Egypt. Somalia is Samuel. This whole land area, a lot of this land area is what we will call in ancient times Israel, because Israel is where the people were. Now, if you look at this map, is by Samuel Goodrich, 1841. Now, Somalia in this ancient map was called Somauli. That's similar to Somalia, right? Translation, transliterations, we see that all the time. Samuel was an Israelite. Somauli is short for Samuel. Well, wait, what you talking about? Samuel, Somaulis, is short for Samuel. Strong's H8050 Samuel Transliteration, Samuel. Pronunciation, Samauli. Samuel pronounced Samauli, not Samuel. According to Strong's, Somalia, Somauli, the old maps, Somalia was called Somauli. Transliteration, Somalia, Somauli, and Samuel are transliterations of each other. The ancient Hebrews and Semitic people did not write with vowels. Somauli and Samuel in Hebrew would have been written SML. Amharic transliteration of Samuel is Samauli, sounds like Somalia. So this is the translation of Amharic. Samuel, Samauli. Y'all saw the old maps I showed you. Samauli. Yes, the Yabir may have been related to Samuel. So the old map says Somalia was called Samauli. Samuel was called Samauli. English to Amharic, Samuel, Somalia, Somalia, Samuel. Translation in Hausa, Samaila. (1817) map, another transliteration of Somalia would be Samhar, also similar to Samuel. Samhar. Somalia, same territory, Samauli. Variation, adding vowels to the Hebrew SML can create numerous variations of the name Samuel, Somalia, etc., or Samauli. Somaliland, Samuel's land. Samauli, Samuel's land. British Somaliland, Italian Somaliland, Somauli land, Samuel land. Land was named after ancestors. Example would be Mali in Africa. Numbers 3:20, and the sons of Merari by their families, Mali and Mushi. These are the families of the Levites according to the house of their fathers. So in ancient times, they named the land after important people. Mali is named after Mali right here. There's a Merari in East Africa near Tanzania. It's a city. There's other names on those maps that is transliterated. And if you go into the Strongs, you can see what the original pronunciation was supposed to be. And you can find out where our people lived. And you can find out where Deborah lived. You can find out where Rachel lived. All transliterated into English. They hid it through transliterations. But if you have the key, like the Strong's Concordance, which has the original pronunciation of the Hebrew words, you can find out where our people from. There's another area in Samauli or Somalia called Ajan. And you can find maps where it was called Ayin. In the Bible, there's a city called Ayin, A-I-N. If you look at the Strongs, it's A-Y-I-N. Ajan, of course, there was no J till what? A few 500 years ago or something like that. It was used to call Ayan. And you can see it used to be called Ayin. According to the scriptures, Judah was north of Ayin. If you go north from Ajan, it's going to bring you to right by Ethiopia and Sudan. There's a place called Bajuda. Oh, I didn't bust their key. I got it now. So that's all I have. I wanted to show you that the borders that they create for Egypt is incorrect. Just like I told you that the modern state of Israel is a lie. The modern Jerusalem is a lie. You used to wonder why we got all these Hebrew Israelite names all over the continent. Like I told you, that is Israel. Sub-Saharan Africa is Israel. All the way from the Niger River all the way to what we call Ethiopia today. The lies have been exposed. They can't lie to us no more. They've been busted. The Bible says those things that are hidden will be exposed. See, they can't deny we the people, so they got to go with the ad hominem attacks. They can't deny we the people. They have to put people that look like you in the midst of you to try to cause confusion. They can't deny we the people. They have to teach you about DNA instead of the scriptures where Yeshua say these, the Most High say these curses are going to be on you forever. It's over. The lie is done. Put a fork in it. The only one that don't believe we the people, the only one that don't believe that the true nation of Israel is in sub-Saharan Africa are the coons. I'm sorry, the raccoons. And of course, some of the Gentiles who can't have the Israelites be black folks. You see why I get so much heat? Because we're a troop ministry. I'm looking for it. And the Most High, he shows me things. The Most High speaks to my spirit. He say, did you see that? I'd be like, wow. Let me share this with the family. See, I told y'all, for me, I'm not playing. I love the Most High and I love my people, and I'm not going to betray the Most High and I'm not going to betray my people. I don't care about filthy lucre. I care about the kingdom. Understand this. If everybody who comes in betrays everybody, we will remain slaves forever. If everybody give in to filthy lucre, we will remain slaves forever. If some of the Israelites come in and get millions and millions of dollars from our enemies to keep us blind and sedated, we will remain slaves forever. Your children and your children's children will remain slaves forever, but you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. All we got to do is apply common sense. We got access to the history. We got access to the maps. We got access to the Bible. Ask common sense questions. Make it make sense, like we say. Make it make sense. See, that's why I have to fight, because people always want to misrepresent what I say to what? Keep our people enslaved. I don't want us enslaved no more. We gonna rule. It's our time. Our kingdom is here. They see it. You see it. They're losing power every day. Look at Africa rising every day. Europeans going to the continent. Can we do business with y'all? Russia don't want to talk to us no more. Oh yeah, we rising. Them dry bones waking up. Bones coming to bones, sinews to sinews, flesh is coming on. What the scripture say, we're going to become one stick. We're going to become one nation again. Where's that at? Not in America. See, those people who tell you that America's our homeland, they want you to remain a slave. The people who tell you we are Native American Indians and Mexicans, they want you to remain a slave. They want your people to always be disunified so that they can rule over you. Their family's going to be fine because they're getting those big checks. But guess what? When that New World Order system come in and that mark of the beast and the chip, their money ain't going to do them no good unless they want to go to hell. Unless they want to take that mark of the beast and be damned. I look at some of these people, I be like, why are they doing this? Why are they telling a known lie? Why are they twisting the facts? Why they put half-truths out? Why do they take me out of context? Because they don't care about truth. They want to keep you enslaved. Why? Because they love filthy lucre and they love Babylon. They love the air conditioning and the nice cars and the big homes. They don't care about you. Oh yeah, Babylon is done. It's over. It's over. They don't know it yet. It is over. I ain't got to warn nobody no more. Why? Because they can see it for themselves. They might deny. They might be in self-denial. But they see Russia. They see China. They see BRICS. It's over. There's a new sheriff in town. And it's called the 10 Toes. But in the days of these 10 shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom that shall never end. Y'all think this awakening was happenstance? Y'all think black folks who've been disunified didn't know who they were, all of a sudden coming to unity and coming to an agreement and identifying as one people? All that's by happenstance. All that is a cult. They call us a cult because we believe the 400-year prophecy when we sitting there and we see it right in our faces. I agree with you, James. I mean, I ain't got to tell you, fam, that Russia and NATO about to go to blows, and Russia probably gonna end up over here with some fireworks. While I look at Africa, and now Biden want to call a meeting with the Africans and say, look, let us do business. They still don't respect them. They're trying to control them. But I guarantee you them Africans going to be like, nah, that's all right. We're going to stick with China. We're going to stick with Russia. That's okay. We know how y'all roll. Y'all want us to buy your GMO foods. Y'all want us to promote pronouns. Nah, that's all right. There's a new sheriff in town. And the truth coming out like crazy. Kyrie, Kanye, everybody know we Israel. And you know what they tell me? You know what the Gentiles always say? It don't matter. God don't care about color. I said, what you mean he don't care about color when the family black or Negroes? And the promises were to Negroes, Israelites, descendants of Jacob. What you mean color don't matter? Well, we're all God's people, yeah, but the promises wasn't to you and the contract wasn't with you. But it don't matter because we're all one in Christ. Yeah, salvation is for all. But there's some promises to Israelites. There's some promises to those who went into captivity worldwide. There's a promise of delivery, and there's a promise of restoration. There's a promise of us leading. There's a promise of us being restored as priests and kings. There's a promise. But we're not supposed to dwell on that. Because ain't nobody different. Ain't no hierarchy. Ain't no hierarchy in heaven. Who lied to you? Like I say, they must think we dumb. I could read that Bible and see there's a hierarchy in heaven. See, this is why they got to misrepresent. This is why they got to tell half-truths. Because Christianity being exposed for the half-truths that it has. Oh, yeah. They've been busted. All things that were hidden is being revealed. Yeah, I don't think we have long. Too much information. Too much information, too many truths coming out. At the same time, many lies, many false prophets, many false teachers, deceivers, deceiving and being deceived. We don't have a lot of time. I don't think. I think the Exodus is near. I don't see how we look. I just don't see it. Maybe I'm wrong. I ain't setting no dates, even though they say I set dates. But they lie. They call us cults. They call us cults because we believe a 400-year prophecy. They believe in the rapture. They believe people are going to just disappear and be dropping out the sky and planes going to fall. But we crazy because we believe there's a second Exodus coming. No, I think they're crazy for believing in the rapture. Go read them Left Behind series and leave us alone. You don't believe in the 400-year prophecy, that's your business. Y'all go believe and enjoy your fantasy time reading the Left Behind series. It's all good. I ain't going to judge you. You can believe what you want. It ain't salvific. But see, they got a problem because they see that the truth is winning. Remember, I said, all you got to do is sit back. Sit back. You ain't got to say a word. Sit back. Watch. Just be quiet. Sit in your rocking chair and see what comes to pass. That's all you got to do. You ain't got to fight me. Just sit back and watch. The truth always wins. It's not salvific. Either I'm right or I'm wrong. Either you right or you wrong. What's the big deal? The truth has come out, fam. We going back home. Peace and blessings, Israel. Your captivity is ending. Love you with the love of the Messiah. If you love what we do, you can become a patron, and also you can support us with Cash App. And please support the Dry Bones Project.